Hello everyone and welcome back to Georgia Unplugged. I've lit a couple of candles today and I've made myself a cup of tea because today I want to tell you a little seasonal story. On the eve of the 6th of December, so on the 5th of December, children polish their boots and put them outside on the doorstep, one boot per child, and they wake up in the morning and they find it filled with sweets and chocolates and quite often a little chocolate Santa Claus, Father Christmas, Saint Nicholas. It's a sweet and simple tradition which has been going on for many, many years in this country. It's similar to the stockings we have in UK and US where you put your stockings out on the 24th and you hang them on the fireplace or quite often under the bed for those of us who don't have fireplaces. And you wake up to find your stocking filled with similar gifts. Chocolates, sweets, nuts, fruits and little gifts as well sometimes. But under that sweetness there's something much older than St. Nicholas and much older than Christianity even. And even older than many of the stories we think of as old. It goes all the way back to the winter gods and the wild hunt. In the weeks when darkness presses in and the wind sounds almost alive. If you didn't grow up with Nikolaus, then this is a short summary of what happens. I've already mentioned how children clean and polish their boots on the 5th and they put them outside that night and receive something in their boots overnight from St. Nicholas, who's flown over, very much like Father Christmas, and given them these gifts. Now some families still have a different tradition, which is where St. Nicholas, or St. Nikolaus as they call it here, comes in person to your house. Obviously they get people that dress up and they go from house to house. This happens in villages a lot. I grew up in a little Bavarian village and this happened to me when I was a child. I left Germany when I was 12. Let's just say it's kind of terrifying and the memories are not the best memories for me. So when I was a child, St. Nikolaus would come into our house on the 6th in the afternoon. It was already dark, so maybe 5-6 o'clock, I'm not sure. He would come in, a tall man dressed as a bishop with his bishop's hat and his big staff. And he would have with him a heavy book where he would read out all the things we did right and wrong in the previous year. So mine was always, Georgia, your handwriting isn't great, you should try harder in school and you really should tidy your room more. That was essentially mine. I remember being terrified, wondering how he knew about me not having a tidy bedroom, that kind of thing. It was scary, but you know, he was this imposing figure and he'd tell you that and tell you to do better. And you'd go, okay, yes, okay. And then he'd hand you a little sack with your little gifts. So it can be a sack sometimes as well, if it's not a boot, because we didn't do the boot thing when I was a kid. I don't know if that's a really old one which was lost and has come back again, or whether it's just something we personally didn't do in our village. We just took cues from our neighbours. The thing is, he was imposing, but he was also a kindly man, and he is based on St. Nicholas, the bishop who was a secret gift giver. But behind St. Nicholas, there was another character, a character that we call the Krampus. He has different names, but where we were in the Bavarian region, he was called Krampus, which you may have heard of. There have been a couple of horror movies made, and there was a Krampuslauf every year as well, I think next weekend maybe in Munich, where people dress up in these wooden scary masks and scare everyone. He would be standing behind Nikolaus. He would come in, you never saw his face, he never wore a mask, but it was someone with a deep dark wig and a black sort of coat. He'd hang over and he had a big sack with him. And the threat was that if you were a very naughty child, then Krampus would stuff you in his sack and cart you off to the woods. He even had birch rods. I don't quite remember if he had many or just one little rod, but the story was more that he would cart you off and he'd beat you in the sack, but you would come home again. It wasn't kidnapping, but it was a terrifying punishment. So I would be sitting there. I remember our sofa, we had a big sofa that went all along the corner, in the corner, terrified. Maybe I was 7, 8, 9 years old. This thing comes in your house and St. Nicholas is reading out all the things you haven't done properly or done badly that year, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, please don't take me. So it's slightly traumatizing, which goes back to all these like grim fairy tales, all these old, especially Germanic stories are very, very scary and very, very disturbing. But here we are. I've grown up and I'm kind of over it, I think. If we look further into the past, before St. Nicholas arrived in Europe, winter belonged to something much older, much wilder, and a little bit eerie. This is called the wild hunt. Many of you may have heard of the wild hunt, but what it is exactly, many people aren't really sure. People believe that in the weeks before the winter solstice, the longest and darkest night of the year, the veil between the living and the dead became very thin. We have this at different times of the year. We have it at Samhain, Halloween as well, Beltane or Bealtaine, which is around the 1st of May. And we have the same thing with the solstices and summertime as well, in the summer solstice in June, and in December in the winter solstice. And as the barrier between the living and the spirit world grew, the spirits would roam the earth, and one of them was the wild hunt. So when the winds howled, the chimneys roared and the windows rattled, and bare branches scratched against your windows and trees knocked against your doors even though no one is there, this was the wild hunt. And at the front of this ghastly and scary hunt is Odin, also known as Woden, who many of you know Odin as a Norse god. And he would be on his 8-legged horse Sleipnir. The wild hunt was comprised of many creatures, ghostly apparitions. It could be anything depending what part of the world, but the part of Europe, you know, it's a very European, quite Germanic and Norse tradition and folklore. And at the front of this was Odin, as we've said, Odin, the warrior god, the Norse god, but also very prevalent in old Germanic history and folklore. On his horse Sleipnir, I think I pronounced that correctly, his 8-legged horse Sleipnir, and he'd race to the sky followed by all his followers, which made the wild hunt and the noise and the howling of the wind. Now there is a parallel between the horse, 8-legged horse riding through the sky, and Father Christmas, Santa Claus, whatever, on his sleigh. There are always parallels, all these, and I love it. I love the connection you have between folklore and modern stories and Christianity, how it's incorporated so many of these. You were never meant to see the wild hunt. You would hear it, but you were never meant to see it. If you heard it, you would stay inside. You'd lock the doors, you'd lock the windows, you'd light a fire, and you'd be comfy and cozy under blankets or whatever. Just stay warm, stay safe, stay inside. Whatever you do, don't go outside. Because if you were, you could be swept up by the hunt, and either you would have to travel with them until springtime, when they disappeared again, or you would never be seen again. You would possibly join the undead in the procession. Different stories depending on, again, where you come from, but you don't want to be caught up in the wild hunt as it howled past your house. Especially if you lived rurally, in countrysides, the howling winds. We've all experienced howling winter winds, I'm sure, if you've been anywhere like that. Where my in-laws used to live at the top of this hill in Northumberland, had this beautiful house with kilns and everything. We'd often go there for Christmas, and the wind would howl literally round. It was, I swear it was haunted anyway. This little bedroom was haunted, but there was something eerie about it in winter, a very different feel to summertime, and it would howl past the kilns and past the house, and it really was like the wild hunt was going past in winter time. It was amazing and eerie and terrifying. I'm glad I never went out. But amidst all this craziness and all this wildness and fear, there was also something gentle and something sweet. And this is where the tradition really started from. Children would leave some grain or hay in their boots outside for the horse, for Sleipnir. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it. It's terrible. And Odin, who was also a giver of wisdom and giver of gifts, as well as a god of storms, would then give something in return. So he would leave a little gift in the boots, like some fruits or some nuts or something like that. So you get the parallels here. These are the deep roots of St. Nikolaus. So you have the winter, you have the storms, you have the darkness, you have the imposing figure, and someone who is a little bit scary, but he will leave you gifts if you give something in return. So nowadays it's good behaviour. Back then it was a gift of grain or hay or straw for his horse. And the boot tradition comes directly from this exchange way back from the wild hunt. So when Christianity spread, the church then reshaped the story of the wild hunt and Odin into St. Nicholas, or Nikolaus, a generous and kind bishop who was based on and very protective of children. And he was a secret giver of gifts, the real St. Nicholas, who this character is based on. So Odin from the wild hunt became St. Nicholas to incorporate into Christianity and let the pagans not lose their own celebrations, which Christianity did brilliantly. I mean, they were the best PR machine for their own religion, which is why it grew so quickly and so prevalently throughout Europe and the rest of the world, because they knew how to incorporate the local religions and the local customs and just make them Christian religions and Christian celebrations instead. Brilliant, really. But the older and darker parts of the story did not disappear, at least not in this part of the world. And all the dark parts of it shifted into his companion, the person who accompanies St. Nikolaus when he does his rounds. This is Krampus, also known as Knecht Ruprecht, as Bettsnickel in the Rhineland. So different names, same person basically. This shadowy figure would be literally almost a shadow behind St. Nikolaus. You never spoke, you'd never see his face, but he was always one step behind him, reminding people to tend to their homes, to behave, to be nice, to just be good people. And those who didn't would get punished by him. And this was always done through the darkest nights, The darkest nights where you look back on the summer, where people behave very differently, and to be introspective and look inside you. And this really is the history of St. Nicholas. But here's a little folk tale which happened long before we had chocolate Santas in supermarkets and kids getting little plastic toys in their boots. They say that in the deep midwinter, when the nights were longest, a silent rider crossed the skyle on a pale horse. If children left a little hay in their boots for the weary horse, the rider would leave sweet nuts or a honey biscuit in return. But just behind him came a shadowy figure with soot on his face and a creaking old sack on his back. He carried birch twigs, not to hurt, but to remind. A tap on the window meant, this is the time to do better, before the sun returns. Some said that truly stubborn children might find only a lump of coal, and very rarely the shadow might open his sack and carry a naughty child off to the forest. Not forever, just long enough to frighten the mischief out of them. But mostly, he simply followed the rider like a long winter shadow, making sure each home was ready for the brighter days to come. And in the morning, when the children woke and found their boots filled with treats, they knew they had passed through the darkest night and been gently guided towards the returning light. So when children put out their boots nowadays, on the 5th and they wake up on the 6th, and they find their boots filled with mandarins and nuts and chocolate and little gifts, they're actually participating in something truly ancient. Many don't know this, but it really is a very ancient ritual and celebration. It's part Christian saint, part pagan winter ritual, and part wild hunt whispered across thousands of years of history. Nicholas marks a moment to just stop, look back, let go, and then move forwards towards the solstice, where more light will then come into the world again. So that is the story of St. Nikolaus, with modern sweetness and ancient wildness all mixed together into a celebration the way we celebrate it today. If you celebrate Nikolaus where you live, or have a similar kind of tradition around this time of year, put it in the comments and let me know, because I love to hear what other people do. I love to see how they celebrate and what they grew up with and what kind of traditions you have. Is it the wild hunt? Is it Nikolaus? Is it something else? So if you like this video, then maybe leave it a like, leave a comment, what kind of things you'd like to see more of. I love folklore, I love mythological stories and the way they're linked to us today. So if you're interested, then I might do a few more like this. And thanks for watching. Happy Nikolaus tomorrow or today, depending when you're watching, and see you on the next one. Cheerio!